Hello, friends. I'm Eddie Harrold. I'm excited to be with you on this night. Tonight I'm joined by my new partner on an amazing program that we're putting together about longevity and healthy living. The amazing Bruce Cryer. Welcome, Bruce.
Thank you, Eddie. It's great to see you again, man. And I'm excited about working together on this project with you. I think it's going to have a lot of aha moments for the folks that participate, and beyond just aha, an awful lot of practical, deep wisdom and insights and tools, right? So it's going to be awesome.
It's been exciting the last 5 or 6 months. You became aware of me, I guess, through Seder or vice versa, and Sage put us together, and we had relations, and we found a stream of consciousness together that we share with humanity, and I'm excited. When I look at resume, I look at where you've been, the folks, the work you've done in life. It's a life really well lived, and the work you have is deep. And we look at your background and what you're bringing to the table. It is so desperately needed world that we appear to be living in season 2024.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Thank you for all that. When we met and we did your podcast, and I think you and I both kind of felt like, let's keep hanging out.
Right.
Whether we do a podcast or not, let's keep hanging out. And we were kind of like, what should we do? And which led eventually to deciding let's do a course on longevity and ageless living, because we both got some miles on the tires. And there've been a few gashes in the tires from time to time, and had to do some retread and all the rest. But I think part of what's fun every time we talk, and we've been talking every week now for months, is just all the interesting life experiences and stories that inform what we're going to be doing, what we just are doing as friends. Because kind of the fun, I think, is that the folks that participate in this class are going to be listening to two friends we haven't actually met in person yet. And but I think it's that wisdom of the wisdom of two warriors, as we decided to call it in the subtitle of the. We've had some battles we've had to deal with, and I think that there can be a well, I was talking the other day, actually, in California, where I was for several weeks, and three young Gen Z women who were there and listening to me talk, and I was talking around kind of what we were going to be doing in this class. And one of them came up to me and specifically, and she said, "I really appreciate the felt experience I get what you're talking about. I know that you have lived what you're talking about. Thank you for doing that." And I put my hand on her shoulder, and I said, "Thank you for saying that. People can praise you, for being a good speaker or having knowledge or whatever. But to hear that, and especially a young woman as she was, probably early 20s, to feel the lived experience, I think that is a lot of what is going to be unique about people kind of hanging out with us for 5 weeks. Is we've lived, we have lived."
So have this program where we kind of agreed upon what we thought was important in 2020 for coalescing my career. Folks could live with lower biological age, slow down the aging side. Then when we speak about your career, heart math, heart brain coherence, co-training the mind to get information from the heart, and simultaneously gives us so much more focus. It's an exciting time to co-present with you. I'm kind of a breath guy. Whatever paradigm platform I'm working with result-oriented people, like to get a lot of things done, like the new things, and placing the breath in front of training programs has been a huge tool as a to get people where they want to go faster, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And when I think about putting some different breath sequences into the work that you already masterfully do, it's going to be an exciting weeks.
Yeah. Well, as you know, in the work of Heart Math, where I was, one of the original founders, creators of it all, and CEO for 11 years, and have taught it all over the world and tens of thousands of people. The breath is a very significant part of what we're teaching. To be able to get into heart and brain coherence, the breath is in every Heart Math technique. When we were first starting in the early 1990s, there wasn't a school of thought called breath work, or if there was, I certainly hadn't heard of it. But it wasn't a thing like it's become over the last decade or more, not nearly to the extent that it is now. And so it's been fascinating to kind of get to know you and people like Sage Rader, who's a dear, dear friend of mine, who have dedicated decades to the study of breath. And I think, well, I'm a neophyte in that area. I know what I know because we've been using it as a central part of the process to get into heart and brain coherence. But I kind of bow to you, O wise one, when it comes to understanding many different ramifications of not just different breath techniques, but the implications of breathing in certain ways and what that does to cognition, to aging of our brain, to immune function, all kinds of things that Heart Math also studied, but less focused on breath, more on the heart and positive emotions, etc. So I think it's kind of a perfect combination because I think we're both like super cool guys also. Not that I'm bragging in any way, not at all.
That's funny. When I was a young, I think the first that I ever really wanted to be was cool. you know,
Exactly.
I was just a kid growing up in the '60s on the beach of New Jersey. It seemed like cool was the way to go.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, so again, it feels like a privilege for me to get to work with you and to get to
Gotcha.
see how we can pair not only uh, breath as a field, but so many practices, so many things you have learned, so many studies relative to your work. I'm going to be there as a student when I'm not talking. And hopefully
Yeah.
while I'm talking and hearing how people respond to the program, I'll be learning from them and from you as well. So I think it's going to be a really cool experience with a couple of cool guys.
Obviously there's going to be a huge education, but I think the experiential of the program will be hands down one of the program in the world this fall. And when you look a little bit deeper, we're going into one. We're kind of creating a definition of certain subjective states that we can begin in. Also set goals, individual goals that we'd like to achieve during the. So I'm really excited about and all the differences where we can go to help create some awareness about where we want to go. The heavy
Yeah.
4-week learn.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think also for the benefit of people watching this who are coming to our program through you, why don't I just share a little bit about heart coherence? A lot of people have heard the term by now, especially if they know Dr. Joe Dispenza, they've heard heart-brain coherence. If they know Greg Braden, they probably heard of heart-brain coherence. So it's coming more and more into the vernacular of people that are looking into wellness and health in new kind of ways. But fundamentally, when we were beginning in the early 1990s, and when I say we, meaning the Heart Math Institute, where, as I mentioned, I was one of the original directors and part of the original team, we had a pretty strong theory that the West and Western science had lost the plot about the heart. Chinese medicine never lost the plot. Ayurveda never lost the plot. A lot of other cultures and traditions and spiritual teachings never lost the plot. In other words, the heart was always revered in all these other areas, aspects of science and religion and spirituality. But in Western medicine, thanks to Descartes and the Industrial Revolution, the heart was looked at, literally the phrase was, it's a fantastical machine. Well, okay, fantastical, good. At least you got that word right. Machine, no, not really. But that thinking kind of led our view of the heart, and so the heart was seen as this remarkable pump. But why would a pump be relevant in your business workday? Why would you tell kids to go play with your pump? No, you tell your kids, play with your heart. Go out there and sing with your heart. Or, you know what? If you're a little bit nervous, if you just speak with your heart, everything will be fine.
Yes.
So there's this sort of common collective awareness that the heart is much more than a pump. And yet the scientists were saying, well, but you haven't proved that it's more than a pump. We know it's a fantastical machine. So we kind of set out in the early 90s to say that we believe we can prove that there's much more to the heart than just being a pump, and that's where we've gotten wrong, and that's why we're saying don't bring your heart to work with you, because you'll make bad decisions. Like this fantastical machine is a lousy decision maker. Oh, really?
Right.
Most of us, when we're really struggling, we do in some way go to our heart to try to get understanding. You know, if you've lost someone, if you've lost a relationship, if you're suddenly facing a crisis, the mind is only going to take us so far in figuring it out, but we don't get to peace with the mind. We get to peace through the heart. And so we believe that already, that was true. And we weren't the first ones to think that. You know, pick a religion, pick a spiritual belief system that always revered the heart. But what was lacking was a practical system of tools that wasn't religious or spiritual or that kind of thing. And so that's why we set out to create a system of simple techniques that anyone, a small child, an aging grandma, anyone could use to get through life easier, especially around issues of stress and health and well-being and aging and all that. So we just said we're going to use mainstream science as much as we can, not because we were stuck in mainstream science, but because we felt if we were going to prove that the heart was more than a pump, we needed to use tools that the CEOs of companies would respect, and heads of school districts would respect, and medical directors of hospitals would respect, and that meant we needed to be somewhat mainstream, at least in our initial research. So we were able to prove out that our heart and our brain are linked, and when your heart is troubled because we're emotionally, stressed out or overwhelmed or anxious, the heart starts to beat in ways that makes it very difficult for the brain to make the right decisions. Which we all know is true. When we're frustrated, you say things you regret. When you're worried, you think things that you make decisions that are short-sighted. You might even be physically uncoordinated. You trip and drop a glass, not when you're feeling happy usually. It's usually when you're rushing or worried or frustrated or angry. So we began to draw those links and said, here's how we can prove this. As you learn to regulate your emotions, which the breath is a huge part of, that helps to regulate the heart. Now the brain, which is getting information 24/7 from the heart, the brain is getting better information. The heart's more calm. The heart's more in a balanced. It's working now more like it's designed to work. So there's a lot more we'll go into in the course, but I just kind of wanted to tease a little bit of kind of what we've learned over the 30 plus years of HeartMath, that the heart is an incredibly powerful, influential organ. When we breathe right, and when we organize our emotional state right, our brain is the big winner. And of course, every aspect of us wins in the sense that we're living healthier, we're wasting less energy, we're not aging as quickly because we're not wasting all that energy worrying uselessly over things that we can't affect, etc. So I think it's good for a lot of people that are new to this, hearing about heart coherence for the first time, or even if you have, there'll be a lot of insights. It's 34 years I've worked with these ideas now and taught about it for 34 years, and I'm only in my late 30s anyway. So I was just like in preschool when I first started teaching.
Well, I can't say bravo enough because having the awareness, we could take a mystification of the sense of wholeness and completeness and all of the powerful emotions, and then try to scientificness to a place where it could be observed by researchers. It was a huge bridge that had never been built before. And I think it needs to just pause and take a break here just for a second, and know that this is some of the greatest that has taken place in our lifetime. And by the quality of our mind, our life, our who we are in the world and we're in. And it's 30 years already. And look how much we've learned about amazing in our chest. One of the things that has really helped my brain work with my heart in regard to stress and perform, calming down and amping up, whatever it may be, is that anytime there's a trigger to the amygdala and there's something different, no matter how subtle it may be, the first place the brain go to is the heart and make it faster. And this is like a hard drive that we've established in programming as a child and went through teenage years. This is kind of like how we show up in the moment. And what I began to find is that since my respiration affects my heart very closely and much, I began to show my brain that when I am triggered, if I could just slow my breath down during the triggering process and show the brain that breath and controlling the great care can keep the heart down and keep the amygdala in that moment of unrest or turbulence. And when the brain begins to see, I don't have to bring my heart rate up to conflict, and I can explore this trigger while I control my breath. It's an instantaneous neuroplasticity and neurochemistry now between the heart and the brain. And now we've found a way to self-regulate stress in a way that doesn't drain our immune.
Exactly. That's an extremely good way to express that. And back to this event that I did on Saturday, and I had this, it was a very interesting mixed group because we had people from 22 to 80. I know we had an 80-year-old. We might have had one or two over 80, and everything in between. It was a really delightfully mixed group. And there was this guy I'd never met before. And he looked like an intense guy, like just his face and the skin color, and looked like this guy can get intense, but he's a really warm-hearted guy too. So he's probably a wonderful man, probably a wonderful father, but he probably loses it occasionally. It just kind of had that sense about him. And sure enough, I had taught this one thing that we will do I'll teach in the class, which was called neutral, and it's a way of breathing. And you're just doing it for 5 seconds in and 5 seconds out. But it's called neutral because the intention, as you just implied in what you just said, Ed, the intention is to, as you breathe in, you're slowing down the breath, but also slowing down the heart, but also slowing down the emotions in order to get more neutral instead of being caught up. And he's got this gentleman, his name is Mike. He's got this 16-year-old daughter. And he loves her like crazy, but she's 16. And so from that standpoint, she's 16, meaning they're gonna conflict. And something happened just a couple of days before I met him and we did this talk. And he lost it and he felt bad with himself and he kind of self-corrected later and apologized. But he thought when he was learning this neutral, breathing slow for about 5 seconds in through the heart and then 5 seconds out through the heart, he started to do it in my event. And he said, that's the solution. When she starts going off, or I do, or whatever, I start doing that. He said this is fantastic. I feel like I've got a solution for when I lose it with my daughter. And it was really lovely to see that because this is a guy, as I say, I felt like he loves her intensely. There's not a lack of love, but everything's a little too intense. And so he loses it from time to time. And so to be able to regulate ourselves with the breath and the heart working together is a powerful thing that we will be practicing.
Do you know how good? Do you know how it felt that he interacted with this thread of information, and he actually he could control it. Control it. It doesn't have to. Do you know how that must made him feel?
Well, I
Amazing.
did, and I did because I had to. The first time I actually talked to him was when he came up to me afterwards and told me this story, and he was just beaming, and he says, "You just made my day, man! This is fantastic." And
Made
so,
life.
yeah.
I mean, that's just some moment of just waking. You know, whatever you want to call it. And you know, you're speaking earlier about heart rate and the inhale. And you know, recent research tends to indicate that on it's a sympathetic action. The It's the gas pedal of the autonomic nervous system, and organically, inhale is sympathetic in its quality, and the heart rate will rise slightly. Well, one of the things we can do around breathing to regulate that, if we can inhale slower, we parasympathetic quality, do something which is hard driven, sympathetic, and this new software gets installed. And then when we have a slower inhale around something that is normally sympathetic rate doesn't get as high. There's more immunity. There's greater heart-brain coherence choices. There's all sorts of different ways that we can hack the system.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. Is we are hacking our system, and you know, one of the things that I will go into again, so people listening now don't need to remember this, but when we started teaching breath with these heart methods 30 plus years ago, and we had run across this idea that when you're breathing at about a 5-second rhythm, about 5 seconds in, that 5 seconds out, that science, in medicine, researchers had already discovered before we came along that the 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out rhythm allows the breath and the heart rhythm to synchronize.
Yeah.
So 5 in, 5 out. That we didn't randomly pick up that number like, oh, that's about the right rhythm. No, it was based on something called the respiratory sinus arrhythmia, which is a mouthful, but it's a medical fact. The doctors know this. Nurses know this, and so, but it's exactly what you were just saying, that as you slow down the breath, because 5 seconds in is way slower than the average person is normally breathing, right? You're half that or less. So it's definitely a slower rhythm. And it can feel a tad awkward at first because it's slower, but then after a while you realize, oh, actually, this feels great. This feels so good to slow down my breath, because the whole system, as you're just talking about, the whole system starts to, oh, okay, now you're kind of getting at a vibe, at a frequency that you're more effective, much more efficient. So it's a cool process, isn't it?
Yeah, the work is woven together really well. And I know the first week we're going to have an overview, create goals, individual goals, and some definitions. Now, week one, we're going to physical experience, where we're going to go to the body, and we're going to concepts and strategies to improve heart rates using body skills.
Yeah, and I see something's just come up on the screen. This program is available for CEs, continuing education units, for nurses, social workers, therapists. It's a whole range of health professionals that can get CEs. It's actually 7.5 CE credits for attending the entire course. And if anybody watching, listening right now or afterwards, if you use the code CES, you will get a 15% discount right now on the Eventbrite registration, which I think will be in the comments after this.
Yeah, it's exciting. You know, it's going to begin on Tuesday night, October 1st, 5 o'clock time. It's a 5-week program. If you can't make, it's all going to be recorded and it'll be get sent to your email in the morning. Lots of different ways for you to explore what we up over the last 5 months.
Exactly. And I think that there's, you know, whether the issue is longevity, which of course is our lead word, you know, who doesn't want to live a longer life? But of course, you don't want to live a longer life if it's low quality.
Right.
So longevity, coherence, and ageless living we're really saying hey, there's a way to live. There's a way to manage our bodies and manage our breath and manage our heart and manage our emotions and flow with life. That means the quality of our living improves significantly. And we're not, I love this concept, and I've learned a lot of it, a lot of how you think of it about ageless living, that we're not conscious of our age. You and I are both of an age where we're kind of, in some people's minds, we're aging out of relevance.
Right.
Not in my mind, and not in your mind, but we're
No.
of an age where, right? I mean, that's how society tends to view things. Instead of, wow, these guys must be super smart because they made it this long. It's almost the opposite
No.
sometimes. But I think the point of why I even bring that up is that to be able to live without thought all the time of, oh, I'm a certain age, therefore I can't, or I'm or I'm going to be a certain age. I've got the big one coming up next year,
Right.
therefore I can't. And I think that's a powerful thing to get over, to be able to live without constantly reflecting on age in a society that is as focused on age as it actually is, right? So I think
Yeah.
that's going to be huge, and whether that's the main objective or whether you're much younger and you're not thinking about the aging issue isn't right in front of your face like it is for some others. I think just the energetic benefits of learning what we're going to teach everybody, all the tools, all the tips, all the techniques, and culminating with an ageless blueprint that we're going to help you create.
Yeah.
So you're really looking at your life as a whole, and seeing what are the ways that right now we're aging unnecessarily by
Yeah.
overreacting or staying stuck in a stress loop and blaming somebody. We love to blame. There's always somebody we can blame, right? And that keeps us locked in a negative loop, which is actually an aging loop. It's not an
Yeah.
ageless loop. Yeah,
It's tricky. Tricky. It is tricky. And having a simple toolbox
exactly.
for self-awareness, dynamic, healthy, loving life. Everybody work with Bruce are result-oriented people. They enjoy this experience here and much to give the world. And if the goal is, to live as long as possible and share as much experience and wisdom as what's coming up behind you, I think that's a life.
Absolutely. When I think about living as long as possible, I don't want to get to 140 and have been kind of bedridden for the final 20. I want to
Right.
live. I want to live so I can experience more things. People will look at my life story and it's like, wow, you've experienced a lot. You've been a lot around the world and you've had a lot of experience, haven't you? And I said, yeah, I have. I think that isn't that what life is about? To continue to experience, to continue to grow, to continue to give birth to new parts of ourselves. This is something that I call the Renaissance human, that we all
Yeah.
have the capacity inside ourselves. We're designed to keep learning, to keep growing, to keep giving birth to new parts of ourselves. It's obvious when we're young, you're literally learning how to walk, to see, to talk, to eat, to converse, to learn new things. We're learning how to learn. And then we have this societal belief that kind of somewhere in our 20s, that is supposed to kind of stop, because now you got to get serious about work and earning a living and crypto and whatever else we need to now start doing. And somehow the learning gene shuts off, we think. And then God forbid you're in your 40s or 50s and you decide, you know what, I really need to get out of that corporate job, and I want to move to the country. And we're accused of having a midlife crisis. And I'm saying that's not a midlife crisis. That's the part of you inside that wants to keep growing and
Right.
experiencing, and not just be stuck on autopilot because that's what you think you're supposed to do, or that's what you feel you have to do to maintain a certain lifestyle or whatever. I have had more midlife crises than most people have. Most people have. I'll agree, but I haven't looked at it as a crisis. At times, it can be like, whoa, what's going on now? A big change seems to need to happen, but hey, look at life. Look around us, right? Changes happen.
Perception is so keen these days. What
Exactly.
is really happening now? And how to choose if I need to choose something better? think we all
Exactly.
have a lot more power, and we're discovering through my work that we actually have a lot more power inside us than we were told that we had when we were a kid.
Absolutely. I think that's a huge truth. And you look at people like us, baby boomer generation, our parents were trying to help us have some normalcy to kind of guarantee a certain life coming out of wars and depression and all that. My father was a farmer during the Depression, left the farm to put himself through college. It was a battle with him and his father. His father did not want him to leave the farm. My dad said, I'm leaving. I wanted another life. I don't just want to be a farmer the rest of my life.
Huge. Wow,
And
that's
so
courage.
it's courage, exactly right. And I think that part of him is alive in me. It doesn't matter how old you are, we still have the ability to create an incredible life for ourselves. And now science has even proven that, because when I first started hearing all this research, I'm sure you know a lot more of it than I do, about how even in their 80s and 90s, people were still growing brain cells. That did not stop. It may have stopped if we have lost interest in life and we're just doing crossword puzzles or Sudoku or whatever, and not experiencing new things and being challenged by new ways of thinking or meeting people that we're not used to meeting. But if we are, the brain's still alive. It's still processing information. It wants more. Give me more. Give me more. I'll create more brain cells. Right? It's a
I think you have the energy. You have the ability to live with intention and achieve whatever you want. We're very, very, very powerful beings, living with intention, living with focus, pivoting on the fly. All these things just seem to come natural over years of doing it. It doesn't seem the norm. So it's really exciting to share these strategies with folks.
Yeah. What was the last thing? Were you asking me I lost your voice a little bit for a moment there.
I was just saying that wired a skill to living agelessly, and it's a series of habits
Yes.
that you cultivate through falling on your face and picking up. That works. That doesn't work. Putting in a neuroplastic place of feeling everything as a potential guide.
Yeah. It's to me, it's exciting. Life can be exciting.
Yeah.
And a lot of us, especially as we have aged, we less and less believe life can be exciting anymore. It was before. It was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, during college, during high school. And so we keep referring back to that part of seem more exciting, or at least we have some positive memories. And we look to the future and say, oh, it's just getting worse. It's going to just be, I'm going to be more tired, not less. I'm going to be less strong. I'm going to be less energy than ever. And that's kind of the belief. And as a cancer survivor, as a staph infection in my blood, which is a life-threatening condition, survivor. It was MRSA, which is the really bad kind of staph, survivor, getting through double hip replacement. And I can get down into a yoga squat, even if I'm wearing tight pants, and come back up, as I did the other day at an event. I wanted to show off. I said, look, guys, I'm way older than almost all of you in the audience. Watch me now. I'll go down into a yoga squat and come right back up. And they're like, damn, and you weren't even wearing yoga pants.
Yeah. Well, we might have to bring that program.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Is there anything you want to share before we wrap up?
Well, I guess just a little more on even the linear. So as Ed and I've been saying, the class starts Tuesday, October 1st. It's depending on which time zone you're in, it's 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Pacific. That's for North America. If you're another time zone, it's just then those four, you can figure it out. Those are evening times, afternoon, evening time. 5 classes, always on Tuesday. So it's the 1st, the 8th, the 15th, the 22nd, the 29th. Ed and I will be co-teaching each one of the sessions, although each session it may be more of Ed, less of me, and then the next one more of me and less of Ed, et cetera. But this is a team process here. We're collaborators for sure, and just like you're watching us interact now, there'll be sections where Ed will be talking because he's got 85,000 years of experience on a certain topic. I'm not going to interrupt much, although I might throw in some here and there, and vice versa. I've been in this field for a long time, so Ed will have a comment to make, but it'll be more my time to talk on certain topics. So we'll each have that kind of role. But I think we'll have little bits of homework to give every week so you can practice things. So it's not just attend class and then you have to read something. It'll be more like attend class and then here's some things to practice that can help you become more aware and notice where you're losing energy unconsciously, or where you're spinning your wheels unconsciously, and where aging is happening when it doesn't need to be. And so it'll be a dynamic process. And as Ed mentioned, we understand people's schedules. I'm going to be out of the country for 2 of the classes, and I will still be calling in, and it'll be a ridiculous time for me. But the point is, everybody can't make it live, and so we will record every session. So if you have to miss even a portion of it, you'll always have a replay to watch later. If you have to miss the entire class one week, we hope you don't. But if you have to, no problem. We'll be sending out a replay. And again, back to the CEs for health professionals, especially nurses, therapists, marriage and family therapists, social workers, etc. CEs are a thing as part of this course. So 7.5 CEs for completing the course. So a lot of cool benefits, in my opinion.
Well said, Bruce. Well said. Yeah, I'm really excited to get started create with you this amazing event going to go on during the month of October. And I want to thank you taking time out of your busy life to share 8 minutes a week and the world.
Absolutely. Well, it's a treat for me. I'm looking forward to meeting the folks that say yes to this. I think this is a very interesting opportunity to learn from 2 warriors who've been around the block. We've dealt with physical things, relationship things, financial things, you name it, like other people. Some of our stories are probably more extreme than you might be used to. But hey, so what? That means we've had, if we're still doing well, that means we've learned something out of the process. So I think it's a unique opportunity to learn from 2 guys who understand a lot about our bodies, our health, our emotional state, our relationships, all these things that matter to the quality of our life, let alone our longevity, let alone being able to live without worry of aging, living agelessly. I love that concept, living agelessly.
Well said. I'm looking forward to next, Bruce. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bet. Be a treat for me.